The Chinese Riddler has gone off the last couple days on social media, posting a ton of information about the riddles, rumors, and much more. We've got a lot to talk about, so let's dive in. All right, kicking things off here, we've got Riddler Khu posting about the lady at the store saying she is sus, and she is indeed sus. If you guys don't know, the thought right now is that there is this Peach Pokemon, which is located on this image here, and that Peach Pokemon has something to do with the toxic chain and the loyal three, right? Your Pheasantipity, your Okidoki, your Munkidori. They were somehow taken over by this toxic chain, and Riddler posted so many times, guys. There's so many things for us to break down, and basically he posted another picture saying something similar would happen in the DLC, and it seems as though there's some sort of a hint that's leading towards the fact that this Peach Pokemon, this Momotaru, Dokutaru kind of poison Peach Pokemon, is able to take parts of itself off and put them onto other Pokemon to essentially like kind of take them over. So we're thinking that he actually can pull off its toxic chain in some way and make it inhabit these other Pokemon to give them these abilities or whatever it may be. And what's interesting is Khu actually posts this image here of these different colors, and we're thinking that maybe there's a tie-in to there being some type changing going on here, not just poison, but it seems as though we're at least headed on the right track with that. We see this cool post here from Dead Venom saying, I think I cracked it. What if Dokutaru can split himself into multiple versions, and the head he's been counting up to are how many Dokutarus there are? Because if you remember in our last video, we talked about how Khu's been counting up towards something. They posted about Dino, then Doduo, then I think it was Magneton, and then we went to Probopass, and we kept going, right? Falling, so it kept counting. Maybe it's actually talking about, instead of the Diplin heads, maybe this has something to do with the amount of Dokutaru forms there are, or the amount of Pokemon it can kind of split itself into to you kind of take over. And that's going to go to a point here in a little bit here. And then Pen Palin actually posts says, I wonder if the 7-head riddle is going to end up being Dokutaru instead of Diplin's evolution. And this brings me big Nihilego vibes. If you guys remember when Nihilego took over Lusamine in Pokemon Sun and Moon, it kind of gives me that vibe too. So, or maybe it was Lily, but yeah, Lusamine, I think. So there's some pretty interesting vibes going on here with Dokutaru and what this could ultimately be. But we're going to circle back to this in a minute because there's some pretty interesting stuff here regarding this idea of kind of breaking it off. The Riddler then goes on to say, okay, time to bet. Is this the Pokemon itself? Is it an item, or is it a joke from Grandma? A lot of people are still speculating. What do you guys think? Do you think that this is actually the Pokemon sitting on her shelf as she opens up her corner store? Or do you think it's just a held item? Or do you think it's just a joke from Grandma because she's in on this whole thing? Maybe she's inhabited by this toxic chain in some way. And then Khu goes on to post, Grandma is the big boss. Now, this could just be a meme or a joke, but this seems to be passed by a lot of people. I think this could be something. There might be some relevance here if Grandma was actually, involved in the story. I do think he was kidding on this post, but it's still worth noting. I do want to jump ahead. Riddler goes on to say, have you ever wondered why the design of Momo is so simple? There's definitely got to be some truth that I barely see people mention or speculate online. So, and then a lot of people commented, is the child emerging? He says not a child, all this stuff. But then there was a really interesting post here from Ama Shinu who says, a simple design can mean a few things. A mythical Pokemon, a pre-evolution, a basic form, or an uncatchable form. The very later gives sense to your depends reply, where Khu actually kind of responded to somebody saying, well, it's gonna depend, there's a couple factors here. So the thought is maybe this Dokutaru Pokemon is kind of like the Zygarde cells, where it splits into different parts and you can kind of accumulate those different pieces to ultimately form the final Pokemon. So maybe that Peach is one of the parts of kind of the full Pokemon, and maybe Pheasantipity, Okidoki, and Munkidori are holding parts of this toxic chain, and they can all come together to ultimately make like the complete form of Dokutaru, which would explain why it's such a simple design in its current state from what we've seen it as. So there's a few other things we're going to talk about in this video regarding Terapagos and the amount of abilities it has, Terrestrial forms, and much more. But if you guys haven't heard, I'm creating a game called Elestrals, and I need your help. Elestrals is a brand new monster game that takes some inspiration from Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic and a bunch of other games and kind of blends them all together to create an incredible TCG. But we're doing much more than that, and I want to let you guys know that you can actually download our free-to-play app in our Discord server right now by heading over to discord.gg/Elestrals. You can check out the game, provide your feedback for free, and join our amazing community of awesome helpers and players and everyone who's just excited. We're at the ground level of something amazing, and I'm building this game to be something special so I can share with my kids and capture the nostalgia that I had growing up with Pokemon and give y'all the opportunity to be there at the ground level of us building something amazing. We just launched our store and we have some starter decks left over from Kickstarter. So if you missed the Kickstarter, you can always head over there to shop Elestrals.com and grab a few starter decks. You don't want to miss out. This is going to be the next big thing, man. I really believe I'm putting everything I got into it. So I hope you guys check it out. You guys can check out Elestrals, and I would really appreciate your feedback and your thoughts. We're really building something awesome. We've got a great community. We've got events going on. We've got our free-to-play app. It's going to be awesome. So don't miss out. This is a warning. You don't want to miss out. Definitely check it all out. It's going to be in the description below. All right, Khu goes on to post, how many abilities does this have? 1 or 2 or 3 or more, pointing at Terapagos. Now, we believe Terapagos is going to have some different forms. We already know that your boy Ogerpon ends up having a few different abilities, being able to change his ability based on the mask. It seems as though Terapagos is going to have some pretty significant stuff. But he says, reminder, Sudachi 2, or the DLC, only has 4 new abilities according to Datamine. And only 2 new Pokemon got these 4 abilities. So we've got 4 abilities being spread between 2 Pokemon. So that might give us a hint as to kind of what abilities we're looking at with Terapagos. And one of the more interesting things that Khu posted about said, I bet you'll be unable to look steadily at this thing anymore after playing the DLC 2, and it's a picture of a Master Ball. He says, enjoy checking out the clever and funny comments below. Some people hit the bullseye perfectly. So Khu's posting a Master Ball saying, you're gonna not look at this thing steadily anymore. And there's a few interesting posts down below, one of which comes again from Pen Paladin saying, if the Loyal 3 are retainer Pokemon, could their master be the master Pokemon? So kind of the idea that Khu is hinting towards not the Master Ball itself, but the idea that it kind of takes control over the things below it. So you've got your Loyal 3, but they're actually just kind of servants to the master itself, which is interesting. We see RNT Super saying, so he's fully armed related to Kieran. I'm going to guess he has 1 or multiple Master Balls. I believe he will also steal Terapagos or one of our own Pokemon from us for revenge for taking Ogerpon. So maybe Kieran's gonna have his revenge arc and he's gonna steal some Pokemon because he has some Master Balls. We've seen the Master Balls used in the game from Sada Turo, so we'll have to see how that plays out, but definitely gonna be some interesting ties there. Khu then goes on to post, says, it will remind you of some Gen 7 Pokemon, and posts kind of a fruit with a pit in the middle, a peach it seems. And he says, yes, it can open. So a lot of people have been speculating what Gen 7 Pokemon that Dokutaro could be reminding us of, or whatever he's talking about. Some people have pointed towards Minior because it changes colors and has different forms, and it's kind of this Pokemon inside of a shell, which I think could make a lot of sense. Some people also brought up things like Oranguru and Passimian, which may have some relation to this. So Bounsweet is another name that kind of popped up quite a bit just because of the fruit relationship. But I think this may have something to do like teasing towards Minior and kind of how many forms it has, which again goes back to our earlier conversations of Dokutaro, where it can maybe split itself off, or maybe it can change forms or have different forms based on different types, or maybe terrestrialization, much like we saw with Ogerpon, where it can change its type. And lastly, Khu goes on to post terrestrialized state or terrestrial form. So talking about how Pokemon can take on different forms when they terrestrialize, kind of like Ogerpon, whereas a Pokemon can have a different type through its terrestrialized state, if I'm understanding this correctly. And then goes on to say that one of the most former mightiest Pokemon is supposed to have a terrestrialized state, but failed to debut because of some technical problems. Blaze Incineroar says, let me guess, Charizard. Animet says, could it be Arceus? A lot of people are speculating what this could be, but it's very possible that Game Freak tried to put something really cool in the game and they just weren't able to make it happen. Maybe it'll come as part of the DLC. So there was a lot to talk about today, as Riddler has continued to post information about the Peach Pokemon, the Toxic Pokemon, Terapagos we're getting more information on, and it's one of those things where we have all these different pieces of the puzzle and we're still trying to figure out how they're gonna quite fit together to ultimately give us some information. But I feel like we are on the cusp of more DLC news officially from Pokemon. I would imagine any day now at this point, as we still don't have a release date yet for the second part of the DLC, and it's been kind of quiet from their perspective. So don't be surprised if we get some news popping up this week, or probably next week, I would think, as we kind of round out October, as I do think the second DLC is coming pretty soon. Don't forget to check out Elestrals. You can play our app for free in the Discord server, or you can pick up some starter decks over at shopelestrals.com. You don't want to miss out. We're building something really special, and I would appreciate your support. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys soon.